Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today's video is a little bit of an outdated topic. It's not that old, but I think it's a couple of weeks old by now. But I'm still being asked to comment on the amicus brief that was filed by the undercover federal agent in support of Johnny's defamation claim against Amber in Virginia. Before we actually look into the brief, let's first look into what an amicus curiae actually is. So an amicus curiae, and yes, it is pronounced amicus in Latin. I know a lot of people refer to it as amicus. However you choose to pronounce it, an amicus curiae is Latin for friend of the court. Essentially, they provide assistance to the court on deciding matters of fact or law, and usually the information that they provide to the court has not been provided by either the plaintiff or the defendant. They are not a party to the lawsuit, so generally they have no vested interest in the outcome of the case. However, in this situation, as we will look into, the amicus in question does have a financial interest in the outcome of this case. Normally, an amicus may not participate in a case without being given permission by the court, but in some states, including Virginia, there is an exception for state and federal government agencies. In this situation, as you will see, the amicus in question states that she is a federal law enforcement officer and therefore does not require the court's permission or the written consent of either party to submit her brief. This is the specific rule that she is referring to. Now, this rule expressly states that an amicus curiae brief may be filed during the petition, perfected appeal, or rehearing stages of the appellate proceedings in this court, meaning the Supreme Court of Virginia, and in proceedings invoking this court's original jurisdiction. So the way this rule reads is that it doesn't apply to proceedings that are being heard in the circuit courts. So to me, it seems as though she's relying on a rule that doesn't even apply to this proceeding. I could be wrong. I'm not familiar with Virginia laws and court procedure, but that's how I'm interpreting it. However, she did successfully file the brief without the court's permission or the written consent of the parties involved, so I could be wrong. Although, judging from the wording of this rule, I just can't see how it applies to proceedings held in the Fairfax County Circuit Court as well. Another thing I want to point out is she claims that the exception of subsection B applies to her because she is essentially a federal law enforcement officer. But she filed this brief in her capacity as a private individual. So there's that issue too. I just thought I'd put that out there as an anomaly that I noticed. Generally, for the most part, amicus briefs are not taken into consideration by courts. So I will put that out there in case you're wondering whether this brief is likely to be considered or not. Alright, so the brief itself was filed on the 29th of June of this year in support of Johnny's case. The name of the person in question is Ashley Ruth Moyer. I think that's how you pronounce the surname. She states that the brief provides the court with supplemental information that the court would need to make an appropriate and fair judgment. She also states that none of the evidence she is providing has been provided by either Johnny or Amber. As I mentioned earlier, she states that she has a financial interest in the outcome of this case. Specifically, she claims that Johnny owes her over $25 million, and he's meant to star in a screenplay that she wrote, so it's in her financial interest for him to win because she believes that if he doesn't, he may not have enough money to satisfy the debt that he owes her. Before we proceed any further, I want to let you know that I do have my personal opinion on the merits and the credibility of this brief, but I'm going to be sharing those towards the end of the video. Alright, so Ms. Moyer claims that she has had a romantic history with Johnny for almost 30 years, and they met as far back as 1982. Now, most of the brief is about her observations of Amber being a narcissistic sociopath and a gold digger who will stop at nothing to get what she wants. You will notice, however, that she does not supplement any of her claims with actual evidence. It's all based on what she thinks or on her opinion, and let's remember, she is not a qualified psychologist, and yet she has diagnosed Amber with at least 2 personality disorders, I believe, narcissism and sociopathy. So take everything she says with a grain of salt. So as I said, she claims that Amber is a narcissistic, sociopathic gold digger who threatened Johnny to marry her without a prenup, and that Johnny married her against his will to avoid Amber exposing secret information regarding his relationship with this undercover federal agent. Ms. Moyer also claims that Amber admitted to this extortion tactics. So when she was allegedly confronted by this undercover agent, Amber didn't deny her plan. Ms. Moyer further states that she explained to both Amber and Johnny that she had to remain undercover due to her involvement with a crime ring investigation, and that exposing her would put Johnny's life at risk, among other lives. At this point, she claims that Amber smirked and said something about benefiting off Johnny's life insurance policy if he were to be murdered. She also made this incredibly bizarre statement that Amber was pretending that someone was choking her when clearly no one was, and I think the implication was that Amber was accusing this undercover agent, Ms. Moyer, of choking her, at which point she stepped back and said, "You're crazy, what are you doing? No one's choking you." She repeats the claim that Johnny owes her a lot of money and that Johnny went as far as to explain this to Amber. And finally, she states that she witnessed Johnny being violent to a police officer during an incident in 1990. I don't know if any of you have read this, but I'm sure you can understand why I'm asking you to take this with a grain of salt. A lot of the things being alleged here are incredibly wild and far-fetched, to say the least. Now, I'm not saying that they're not true. I'm not calling her a liar, but for reasons that I will explain later in the video, you'll understand why I'm incredibly skeptical. The reasons offered to the court as to why it should accept the brief includes incidents that are mentioned that are indicative of Amber's tendency to lie and feign injury. And this is in reference to the allegation that Amber pretended to be choked by thin air. She claims that this evidence has high probative value and backs up Johnny's claim of defamation. Now for my personal comments on this matter, and I want to stress that this is purely my personal and professional take on this. But I am not calling this woman a liar. I'm skeptical, not because of the nature of her allegations, which are very colorful, as I said, they're very wild, but because of what I found out about her as a person. I did some digging and I looked into her background, and I found out that she has a history of filing frivolous lawsuits against celebrities. And amongst these celebrities is actually Johnny himself. In January of 2013, she filed a contract claim. I'm not sure exactly what the nature of the cause of action was because I couldn't get access to the actual documents, just summaries. And she filed this claim against a number of people, including Johnny Depp and Keanu Reeves. The relevant court that this action was filed in was the U.S. District Court for the District of Maine. This claim, as you can see on the screen, was dismissed by the judge on March of 2013. Now, the main reason that it was dismissed was because the court found that it had no jurisdiction over the defendant. And once Ms. Moyer was asked to state the basis for jurisdiction, she failed to do so. Most importantly, however, the judge found that this action was just another in a series of frivolous lawsuits against these defendants or other celebrities. So he placed her on notice that filing restrictions may be imposed against her. So essentially, she would be restricted from filing any further lawsuits because he found that all of these filings were groundless, they had no basis, and they were inappropriate. And he stated that her actions will no longer be tolerated by the court. So she was taking advantage of and misusing the justice system. When I initially read the brief, I still found it incredibly difficult to believe myself. My instincts, as not just as a lawyer, just as a person reading through what she's alleging, it all just came across as incredibly far-fetched to me. Finding out about her tendency to file frivolous lawsuits only served to solidify my initial gut reaction to reading her brief. I can't say for certain that what she's alleging is untrue, because I don't have evidence to oppose it. And I'm purely looking at this from a factual basis. I don't even know if this woman actually personally knows Johnny in any capacity. The fact that exposing their secret relationship would put Johnny's life in danger, and yet she exposed it anyway to Amber, no less. I wouldn't share a secret like that with someone who I believe is a narcissist and a sociopath and a gold digger who extorts people. You just exposed yourself to a person who will most likely expose you. In terms of whether the court will take this into consideration, I personally don't believe it will. I don't see how this helps in any way, purely because she's not backing up any of her assertions against Amber with actual proof. She never witnessed anything between Amber and Johnny, so she never witnessed Amber being violent towards Johnny, and she never witnessed Johnny being violent towards Amber. So she never witnessed what the entire defamation case is about. She is just trying to introduce bad character evidence against Amber. And again, just purely based on the fact that this person probably has no personal connection to either of them, and based on her past of filing frivolous lawsuits against celebrities such as Johnny, I don't believe that her amicus brief will be taken into consideration. Having said that, it could still be used. I could be wrong. So please bear that in mind. But do let me know what you think. Did you buy this? Do you think it's believable? Do you think that it does have any value in assisting Johnny's case against Amber? Or are you skeptical about her assertions, as I am? Don't forget to let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in a future video.